Do you feel like you get deleted as soon as you see an enemy, or are you constantly getting instantly traded out? Then your movement might be holding you back. As I climbed from silver to radiant, I realized I had to evolve my movement at every rank. So for that reason today, I'm going to be giving you guys movement advice I wish someone had told me earlier at each rank, starting with Iron. Now, I've never personally been in Iron before, but from the players that I have coached, Iron players are getting familiar with the complex movement mechanics of Valorant. At this rank, we shouldn't be trying to move like Primi, but instead we need to get super comfortable with basic movement fundamentals. That way, we'll build our advanced movement mechanics more efficiently. Even though we could just spam games and simply focus on stopping before shooting, there's a lesser known way of learning the fundamental movement mechanics, and that is to utilize the range parkour. The parkour course introduces you to basic movement concepts such as air strafing and bunny hopping. It may seem trivial, but even pro players like Tens would repeatedly speedrun the range parkour at the start of their Valorant career. Even in other games like CS, it's super common for players to play KZ, which is a parkour game mode similar to the range course. And the secret to practicing this is to time yourself. In every successful run, aim to beat your previous record. And once you can consistently solve the course without dying, try to bunny hop or take shortcuts. This will seriously push your ability to strafe midair and jump to the maximum ability of your character. You can also search up Tens' record on YouTube and watch how he moves around trying to replicate that. Once you're comfortable with the basic Valorant mechanics, it's time to start applying them in real gunfights. So welcome to Bronze. My movement advice for Bronze players is simple. Keep moving. While Valorant tries to trick you into thinking that you need to stand still or crouch to shoot accurately, your default state in this game should always be to be moving. Holding an angle, keep moving left and right. In a gunfight, strafe side to side. And if you see multiple enemies on your screen, don't commit to a crouch spray, but strafe and focus on one target at a time. While you're moving, you're least likely to die. And one mistake I see a lot of players make is stopping as soon as they see an enemy to try and get an accurate shot off. But that just makes you an easy target. Instead, you want to be moving and aiming until you're ready to shoot. One way to practice this is to do the 100 bots challenge in the range. Stand close to the bots so you can't see all the spawns at once. Now, after you kill one bot, keep strafing and aiming while moving until your crosshair is ready to shoot the next. And after you kill the next bot, strafe to the opposite direction until you're ready to shoot the next bot. The goal for this drill is to keep you on the move and hard to hit while still being able to adjust your aim. And you must understand that you need to default to movement. If an enemy catches off guard, don't immediately try to flick onto a target you haven't yet focused on. Instead, move, strafe, and once your crosshair is lined up on their head, then you stop and shoot. So once we can stay mobile in gunfights, we should be able to reach silver pretty easily. And while I can give general advice for each rank, to really know what's holding you back the most, we have to have a deeper look at your own gameplay. And that's why coaching can be so helpful. If you simply want to stop being hard stuck and low elo or compete at the highest level, like our student TMS who recently hit Radiant and Zay who hit 900 RR Radiant in EU, then look no further than the Immortal Roadmap program. IRP is for serious players like you who want hands-on help from world-class coaches to perfect their gameplay. And we're so confident in getting you results that we offer a 500 RR in 10 weeks guarantee or your money back. So if you're tired of feeling lost in your games and you want to reach your dream rank, use the link below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to see if you'd be a good fit. Now, once you hit silver, there's one thing that most players complain about regarding movement, and it's that you're always dying the moment you peak. The most important advice when considering movement at this level is to use W and S as little as possible when peeking out of an angle. By using A or D only when peeking or during gunfights, we can achieve the maximum horizontal velocity possible on the enemy screen, which makes it harder for enemies to hit you. Take a look at this comparison between getting peeked by simply strafing with good crosshair placement versus someone who holds W while peeking. But as some of you are probably already mentioning in the comments, that's not enough. You might be thinking, but Konpeki, I'm using the T rule and I still get one tapped. And that's because it's also essential to pre-aim where we think the enemy will be. Simply imagine yourself having wall hacks and pre-aim the area where the enemy is likely going to be standing. Then swing only using A or D to peek and land your crosshair directly on the target. And if you're still dying, it might be because you're peeking at the wrong distance from the angle. If you're at an angle disadvantage, meaning you're closer to the wall than the enemy, you'll need to jiggle peek the angle instead of using a standard peek. And this prevents you from exposing your body to multiple angles at once. If we want to swing an enemy wide, then we want to get as close to the wall as possible. That's because a closer target moves faster compared to a farther one on your screen. So by doing this, this will allow us to swing past where their crosshair is likely to be positioned. And for all other swings, we want to stand as far back from the wall as possible, as this will give us the most angle advantage. Because the further we stay back from the angle, the earlier we will see the enemy when swinging, and this will give us more time to react and hit the shot. And now moving on to gold. At this rank, you should focus on refining what we mentioned for the previous ranks. But what also matters a lot is improving our movement when it comes to gathering info. The most consistent and reliable way to get info is with your body. Darts can be dodged, drones can be timed, but having a player at the right spot during rotations and holding angles will always give you real information. The first fundamental trick to gain info is jiggle peeking. Simply strafe out just wide enough to get info, exposing as little of your body as possible, then strafe back in to avoid being hit. You can do this repeatedly to gain info, and another way to be even faster is to do it with your knife out so that we can move in and out of the angle much faster. And an even safer way to get info is to jump peek. It's basically the same mechanic, but we're jumping at the start of the strafe, gathering info, then strafing back in. You can press W to move forward towards the angle, then turn around with your mouse to air strafe back behind the angle. These peeks, however, involve risk and giving away your position, so the safer option is the silent jump peek. You can do this by crouching right before the jump, then uncrouching right before you land. There's also numerous spots around the map where you can jump spot by peeking above something. A good example of this is Hell on Ascent, where you can jump spot simply by jumping and hitting your head on the roof. Here, you can safely hold out utility, jump spot, and instantly use it to counter the push. Another spot is CT on Bind on A site. You can jump spot showers safely by hitting your head on the roof of CT and gather info if anyone tries to walk out. These safe ways to gather info will help you out a lot, but if you want to get to platinum, you'll need to learn how to move to get out of tricky scenarios. Movement during gunfights isn't the only thing that matters. A lot of the time, you're going to need to use evasive movement. Evasive movement is where shooting mechanics don't apply. For example, you miss an op shot as Jet and you're trying to survive getting rushed down. The best movement players in the world almost have a poetic way of escaping every situation that they get put into. In these scenarios, you need to be air strafing and bunny hopping as much as possible, meaning we're jumping as soon as we hit the ground to consistently bounce around the map. The easiest way to do this is to bind the mouse wheel, scroll up or down to jump. And this allows you to continuously scroll the mouse wheel and not have to worry about timing your jumps. You can combine this with changing your direction mid-air, and you'll become extremely hard to hit as players can't rely on predicting your trajectory to hit the shot. And another trick is to combine jump peeking with shooting. Remember those jiggle jump spots we were talking about before? Well, we can actually use those same angles to go for kills with certain weapons. For example, take jet knives. We can jiggle jump peek an angle and actually go for a relatively safe one tap while being extremely hard to hit. We can also do this with a Bucky or another shotgun at close range. For example, try sitting in pit on Corrode B site. When they come running out of the site on the execute, you can go for jump peeks, which allows you to get free kills while being extremely slippery and hard to hit. Now, once we get past plat, we're on to the higher ranks, which means our movement needs to adapt. When we reach diamond, the simple movement techniques we've learned before won't be enough to consistently win gunfights. Everyone at this rank can handle the basics, and this is where we need to start being more unpredictable with our movement. Most players autopilot into consistent AD spam when in gunfights, but this makes you predictable and allows enemies to win fights more easily. So my advice for diamond players is to master the art of varying your movement. This means you're in a fight and do small strafes to the left, then switch it up by making your next strafe bigger, then switch up your next strafe again to be smaller. If you're also combining this with well-timed shots, you'll become a gunfight demon. Most players will try to predict your movement to make it easier to headshot you, but this can throw them off. And the next step to being more unpredictable is to throw in the same side strafes occasionally. This really messes with people when they try to predict your movement. For example, peek to your right, you can stop shooting, then strafe again to the right. This, when mixed with varying strafe lengths, elevates your movement to a new level. The most important part of this unpredictable movement is trying to predict how the enemy will think. This is a skill in itself, but if you can guess how the enemy will predict or place his crosshair, then you can outplay his prediction. You can manipulate this yourself too. For example, if you jiggle peek an enemy a few times, his crosshair will naturally move really close to the angle. Then you can throw in a wide swing and watch him whiff as he tries to correct. Once we can be unpredictable in our movement, we're ready to move on to the ultimate tip that'll get us from Ascendant to Immortal. If you hit Ascendant, you're so close to reaching the top of the leaderboard. And to make that final step, you need to learn movement timing. Movement timing is a simple understanding that the best time to move is right before the enemy is about to shoot. There's no point in doing a wide swing if you just stop right as the enemy is about to shoot, giving him an easy shot. The players who master this skill seem like they barely move at all, almost baiting the enemy to try to line up a shot. Then right as you flick onto them, they strafe out of the way and dodge your bullets. And this has two benefits. It means you don't use unnecessary movement when not needed, which makes it easier for you to aim and hit shots accurately. And the second advantage is exploiting the fact that players cannot instantly react to unpredictable strafes, and this makes you harder to hit. So how do we practice movement timing? Well, we need to play deathmatch and try to get into the rhythm of intentional movement. No more autopiloting, spamming AD. Instead, understand when enemies are most likely to shoot. When an enemy pops up on a screen, don't just stand still and go for the shot. Instead, move a little bit to the right when they stop to shoot to throw them off. Then finish your strafe while lining up your shot and go for the kill. If you master the art of timing your movement, you'll become very hard to hit and you win more gunfights. However, timing your movement won't be enough in Immortal. Once you move on to Immortal, everyone is conditioned to aiming at head height, which means it's actually time to abuse crouching. Some of the best movement players in the world like Primi are known for crouching in almost every single fight. And while this tendency might be bad at lower ranks, almost every single player in Immortal has immaculate crosshair placement. So we need to find an alternative way to avoid getting tapped. At this rank, it's key to understand the difference between a good crouch and a bad crouch. A bad crouch in a gunfight looks like this. You crouch before the enemy reacts, which makes them line up a very easy shot on a stationary target. A good crouch, on the other hand, is done right as the enemy is about to shoot, making you literally duck under the shot. You also never fully commit to the crouch by letting go of the crouch key right before you hit the crouched position, which makes your head constantly move up and down. In short, crouching at a high level is about constantly making your head a vertically moving target compared to just an easy shot for the enemies to hit. Another aspect to consider is crouch peeking. This is what pro players actually do. No one holds an angle at body height, and peeking at head height could just lead you to getting one tapped. The best players crouch peek almost every single angle, and I advise you to start practicing this as much as possible. Just swing out and tap crouch at the very last moment while you're coming out from the angle. And once again, don't fully commit to the crouch or you'll become too stationary. You also need near perfect pre-aim when crouch peeking, as you won't have enough horizontal momentum to bail you out if you miss your shot. I recommend coming back to this video when you rank up to see the next tip and understand what you need to do to hit the next level. If you're still on the search for more tips, check out our video here where we cover all you need to know about aim in our 0 to hero aiming guide. Thanks for watching.